Hello, my name is Jared Thomas, and today we're going to be going through arrays and for loops in JavaScript. Okay, we're going to be using Atom as our text editor, and we're going to be using Node.js to run our JavaScript code. Node is JavaScript on the server side, and there is also JavaScript on the browser side, but we will not be doing that today. We're only going to be running Node, and I'm going to be running Node in my terminal. Okay, so I ran nodemon arrays_loops.js. That's the file we're going to be running our code in today. So an array is just another data type, right? Just like strings, just like integers, just like booleans. An array acts as storage of similar information. So it's kind of like a list, you could say, a list of similar items. So today we are going to create an array of basketball teams. Right, so we're going to use our const, right? We're going to set a variable, and we're going to name it basketball teams, and we're going to create our array of basketball teams. Right? We have the Knicks, we have the Nets, we have the Celtics, and we have the Warriors. Okay? So this is a similar set of data, right? And then it's an array of strings. Okay? We have the Knicks as a string, comma. Nets as a string, comma. Celtics as a string, comma, and Warriors. So there's 4 items in the set, all strings separated by commas, and this is how an array works, right? And then starting off with square brackets. Right? These are square brackets. Okay, and this is how an array is created. So this is now a set of data. Now, if you want to access one of these items, right? So an array, it's kind of confusing. It starts at a 0 index, which means it starts at 0, right? So basketball team 0 is Knicks. Basketball teams 1 is Nets. Basketball teams 2 is Celtics. Basketball teams 3 is Warriors, and you'll see what I mean here. Right? So we're going to console log basketball teams 0. You're going to see what I mean by 0 index. Let's go in here. You're going to see Knicks, right? Because that's basketball teams, right? We have our array. In order to access an item in an array, we use these square brackets, okay, and then we give it a number. This is an index right here. This is index 0, okay. If we do index 1, what do you think you get? Nets, right? Index 3, get the Warriors, and then let's see what happens with index 4. There should be an error, undefined. So that's the error nowadays, and it's just going to say that that doesn't exist because remember, 0, 1, 2, 3. If we add a team to it, right? Basketball teams 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We got the Raptors. Okay. Now you don't want to have to do this every time, right? In order to say like, oh, let me access this item. So in order to then narrow down data and go through a set of data to narrow it down, we will loop through the array. Okay. And this is the syntax for a loop, and I will explain it in a second. No worries. Okay, let me write it out first. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're setting a variable called I. Okay, and what I is meant to do is it's supposed to represent each and every index in the array as you go through the array, right? So first, remember, as I stated before, we have our for loop, okay, and then var I equals 0. What does this mean, right? So remember, I told you that the array index starts at 0. So we're going to start our loop at 0 because it's going to start at the 0 index of the array. Okay? And this is telling it where to stop at the length of the array. So basketball teams is the name of the array, and then dot length is a property that is part of an array that could give you the length of the array. Right? So it's just a number. Right? Basketball teams dot length is a number. So it's what we're saying here is I equals 0, right? So it's I starts at 0, and then I will keep going until it is less than, until it is equal to, basically, because it's saying I is less than, so it'll keep going until it is equal to basketball teams dot length, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So don't be confused by the index starting at 0 and the length, right? Going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the length of the array is 5, right? And then we go I plus plus, which means it's going to increment. It's going to increment through. So I is going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then end. Okay, so now let's console log basketball teams I to see what's going on. Right, so basketball teams, and then you could use I in here, right? With only within the loop though. You can't use it outside the loop. You're setting it here. You can only use it here, right? And remember this is the syntax, just for, and then these, and then parentheses, and then var I equals 0, semicolon, I is less than a number, right? The length of the array, right? Semicolon, I plus plus, which means incrementing up. You could do I minus minus, and that would mean I will go -1, -2, but we don't want that here. Right, so let's save this file and see what it says here. So remember, it's looped through the array. So basketball teams I is next. Basketball teams, basketball team 0 is next. Basketball teams 1 next. 2 Celtics, 3, 4. You get it. If we just console log I, what do you think is going to happen here? You guessed it. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it stops. Right, it stops at the length. Right, we could do I is less than 100, and you'll see, right, that it goes all the way to 100 I. Right? We're console logging I, but we don't want to do that because we're just looking through the basketball teams array. Okay, and if you remember, right, we learned about string functions, so we want to see which basketball teams include the letter E. Right, so remember, this is just a string. Basketball teams I is string representing all the strings in the array. So all we got to do is say includes E. Remember, we learned the includes function. That's the string function. Okay, so So what we're doing now is we're saying if the basketball team includes the letter E, then console log it. And as you can see, Nets and Celtics was console log, not Knicks, not Warriors, not Raptors, because they do not include the letter E in it. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're looping through the data set, and then we are running an if statement on each and every item in that data set, and then logging which ones pass the conditional, the if conditional here. Okay, so first, remember, we created our array, and then I showed you how to access items in the array, and then I showed you how to go through the whole array using a for loop, and then try to run conditional statements on each and every item in the array. All right, thank you for listening.